Yo, stop what you're doing right now. Did you see what just went down in the wildest corner of hip-hop this week? The same 50 Cent who spent over 20 years running the internet like it owes him money, who laughed at J. Rule, roasted Floyd Mayweather, and literally turned Instagram into his personal war zone, has finally met someone he might have underestimated. And no, it's not another rapper with a hit record. It's a 21-year-old kid from Atlanta named King Harris. Yeah, you heard me right. And the son of T.I. has officially stepped into the smoke, and let's just say, things got personal. Fast. We're talking family dragged into the digital battlefield, memes flying like bullets, and Instagram stories that could make grown men rethink every life choice they've ever made. But here's the kicker. It's not just the usual rap beef. This one cuts deep. Deeper than bars, deeper than hits, deeper than clout-chasing subscribers. This is a war over legacy, respect, and yes, mothers. And T.I.? He's reportedly losing it in ways that even the internet wasn't prepared for. So, buckle up, because today we're breaking down the feud that's got the hip-hop world talking, the fans screaming, and 50 Cent, maybe rethinking every single post he's ever made. You ready? Let's dive in. 50 Cent, historically untouchable until now, finally met a storm that no meme, no throwback clip, no clever caption could shield him from. The internet has spent decades watching Curtis Jackson dismantle careers from his phone, turning Instagram into a digital battlefield where only the strongest survive. J. Rule? Broken. Floyd Mayweather? Trolled into eternity. Rick Ross? Laughed at relentlessly. His own firstborn? Publicly dragged without hesitation. But the tables, as they say, have turned. Enter King Harris, the 21-year-old son of T.Y. He is a young man who decided that watching the Queen's King play games with his family was a line he could no longer tolerate. And just like that, a feud that was supposed to stay in the realm of albums, shows, and interviews exploded into a full-blown social media war that would leave everyone asking if 50 Cent had finally met his match. This wasn't just another rap beef. This wasn't another round of trolling that ends with a meme and a shrug. This was personal. Deeply personal. A collision of family, legacy, and public scrutiny all in one digital storm. It all started with the long-rumored versus battle. T.I., the self-proclaimed King of the South, had been orchestrating this for months, lining up what was supposed to be a clash of two heavyweights, a historical moment for hip-hop fans craving drama and theatrics. According to insider whispers, the initial conversation between 50 and T.I. was professional, almost cordial. "Take it back there," T.I. reportedly said. "You want to do this?" 50 allegedly replied, "Yeah." The verbal handshake was meant to lay the foundation for something monumental. Two legends, hit for hit, on a public stage watched by millions. But as soon as the announcement hit, the script flipped. 50 Cent, always the master of unpredictability, publicly denied any commitment. He called T.I. a rat, dismissed the idea entirely, and left the hip-hop community shocked. What should have been a straightforward, albeit highly anticipated battle, he turned into the spark that ignited one of the most sensational feuds in recent memory. I was blindsided, humiliated, and angry, but that was only the beginning. The situation escalated when 50 Cent made a move that even his fiercest fans struggled to defend. Instead of responding to T.'s allegations or clarifying his stance on the battle, Curtis decided to attack T.I.'s wife, Tiny Harris, posting an unflattering, edited photo of her on Instagram. The caption, dripping with his signature mix of mockery and dismissive energy, made it clear that he had no intention of playing by the traditional rules of hip-hop beef. Tiny had not commented, had not inserted herself in any way. She had no public stake in the argument, and yet she became the target of the most calculated personal shot in the war. Social media erupted. Fans, commentators, and casual observers alike called it grimy, distasteful. and a line cross that even 50's legendary trolling had rarely touched. Reactions were swift. "This ain't just trolling," wrote one Instagram user. "This is personal, unnecessary, and cruel." Another tweeted, "You don't attack a man's wife over a concert that never even happened. Period." The online uproar amplified every move, turning a mismanaged announcement into a full-scale public spectacle. Even celebrities outside the immediate circle, like Tina Knowles, stepped in, and posting in solidarity with Tiny and signaling that the world was watching closely. King Harris entered the battlefield like a hurricane. Whereas T.I. responded through traditional methods, studio tracks, diss records, carefully measured rhetoric, King's strategy was raw, emotional, and direct. Within days, he had released his own diss track, Made Man, a furious statement aimed squarely at 50 Cent, unpolished and unfiltered, and capturing the kind of rage only someone defending their family could summon. Every bar targeted a single, undeniable truth. Attacking his mother would not go unanswered. King followed up with a social media campaign that left nothing off limits. Alleged police reports resurfaced, accusing 50 of past misconduct. Footage from 2008 emerged in which Shaniqua Tompkins, mother of 50's oldest son Mary's, claimed he endangered her and their child. And alleged documents hinted at cooperation with law enforcement during tense street-era incidents, hinting at vulnerabilities Curtis Jackson had spent decades hiding. And then came the most controversial post of all: intimate photos, purportedly of 50 Cent with adult-themed items, coupled with captions referencing his classic tracks, crafted to humiliate and destabilize the Queen's rapper on the deepest level. Whether these posts were authentic or doctored mattered little. The damage was immediate. For the first time in over 2 decades, 50 Cent appeared exposed, vulnerable to the scrutiny and ridicule of millions of followers who had watched him dominate Instagram like a digital warlord. The emotional stakes only intensified when King dragged 50's late mother into the conflict. In an Instagram story, he posted a childhood photo of Curtis as a young boy, asking pointedly, "Is this your mama or pops?" The reference to Sabrina Jackson, murdered when Curtis was 8, was not accidental. It was a surgical strike at the foundation of 50 Cent's life, the trauma that had informed his every decision, his every public persona, his every lyric. King followed this up with a second diss track, Sis, and promotional visuals that literally featured Sabrina's face on t-shirts, transforming memory into weaponry. The internet reacted with a mixture of horror and fascination. "This is insane," said one YouTube commentator, voice trembling with disbelief. "Nobody uses family like this. Not even in the darkest battles." Fans debated endlessly. Was King going too far, or was 50 Cent's initial attack on Tiny Harris deserving of this escalated response? The lines between moral outrage and digital entertainment blurred in real time as the feud's narrative evolved with every post, track, and comment section argument. T.I., watching this unfold, reportedly broke down privately. He unable to reconcile his family being used as collateral damage in a battle he had never intended to escalate to such extremes. Sources close to him claimed that the weight of public scrutiny, combined with the unexpected ferocity of King Harris's attacks, left him visibly shaken, whereas T.I. had a reputation for strategic, measured responses. The rapid acceleration of events left even the King of the South scrambling. According to insider accounts, he immediately began coordinating with his family to counteract 50 Cent's social media dominance, dropping multiple tracks in quick succession, each one layered with personal revelations and coded messages that only those familiar with the history could fully decode. The Harris family, united and methodical, created a coordinated offensive that spanned platforms, mediums, and generations, leaving 50 Cent facing pressure from every conceivable angle. The internet, of course, went wild. The fan reactions ranged from frenzied loyalty battles, Team 50 versus Team Harris, to thoughtful critiques questioning the ethics of dragging family into a digital war. Social media personalities, some seasoned commentators, others opportunistic clout chasers, began weighing in, offering hot takes, leaked inside information, and speculative drama that only fueled the fire. The atmosphere was chaotic, with every new post becoming a potential viral incident. Analysts suggested that this was less about rap anymore and more about a psychological showdown. Two families, decades of history, and generational power struggles playing out in front of millions who had never asked for this level of intimacy in celebrity drama. By the end of Part 1 of this saga, the stage was set for an unprecedented escalation. 50 Cent, historically untouchable and always in control, had finally encountered an opponent willing to bypass rules, norms, and unwritten codes of conduct. The Harris family, leveraging both emotional depth and social media savvy, had created a scenario where every action Curtis Jackson took could be reframed as reactionary, defensive, or weak. King Harris, barely old enough to buy a drink, had reshaped the dynamics of one of hip-hop's most legendary online presences. And T.I., watching his empire of influence collide with the unpredictable wrath of a young man defending family honor, he had a reckoning ahead that nobody could have anticipated. As the sun set on the first phase of this war, the landscape was clear. Lines had been drawn, alliances tested, and the rules of engagement rewritten. And while 50 Cent may have thought he was the master of Instagram, memes, and viral destruction, he now faced a storm that was part legacy, part family, and entirely unpredictable. The question hanging over the culture was simple, brutal, and unavoidable. Could the man who had laughed at every challenge thrown his way for decades survive the fury of a 21-year-old armed with rage, strategy, and zero fear? The moment King Harris entered the fray, the entire dynamic of this feud changed. Social media wasn't just buzzing, it was burning. The kind of chaos that 50 Cent thrived on for decades suddenly had a life of its own, spinning out of control. King wasn't just responding, he was rewriting the rules. And he wasn't dropping polished tracks or strategically timed Instagram posts like the veterans of the game. No, he was raw, unfiltered, and relentless. Made Man had already shaken the culture, but it was the social media offensive that truly put 50 on the defensive. Alleged documents, resurfaced footage, and cryptic posts piled up faster than anyone could fact-check. Each post was a calculated strike aimed at dismantling the aura Curtis Jackson had built around himself, a man who had survived 9 gunshots, flipped a vitamin water investment into hundreds of millions, and still somehow maintained the image of untouchable dominance. Meanwhile, 50's typical playbook was crumbling. Normally, he would respond with humor, wit, and digital precision, memes that left targets speechless, photoshopped images, throwback clips, subtle but devastating captions. But King and the Harris family were operating on a completely different clock. Every move felt personal. Every post seemed designed to exploit the one vulnerability 50 Cent rarely let anyone touch: family. The posts targeting Tiny Harris, followed by the resurfaced allegations from Shaniqua Tompkins, and then the shocking childhood photo referencing Sabrina Jackson, weren't just trolling. They were strikes aimed at the very foundation of 50's personal narrative. And as any veteran of internet warfare knows, once the family line is crossed, all bets are off. T.I., watching his son escalate in ways even he hadn't anticipated, was forced to accelerate his own responses. Where he might have paced the releases of music and commentary in a carefully controlled strategy, now tracks were dropping within hours of each other. War and Right One had set the tone, but subsequent releases delved deeper, calling out Curtis Jackson's personal relationships, past associations, and alleged inconsistencies in the stories he had told the world for decades. Tip's lyrics were surgical, designed to chip away at the armor 50 had built around his public persona, one bar at a time, one accusation at a time. Fans and commentators alike were left parsing every line for hidden meanings, historical references, and potential receipts. Hip-hop culture, always thirsty for drama, had never seen anything quite like it. The Harris family's approach wasn't limited to music. Damani, T.Y.'s other son, jumped into the mix, amplifying the narrative with tracks of his own. His song, reportedly called I'm Sorry, M. Jackson, added another layer of pressure, flipping the focus to family legacy, generational tension, and the consequences of past decisions. By the time King's Sis track and the viral t-shirt rollout hit, the narrative had escalated from a feud over a canceled versus battle to a sprawling, multi-platform assault on 50 Cent's credibility, reputation, and public image. Every corner of the internet was ablaze. Fans debated ethics, tactics, and loyalty, while casual observers watched the spectacle unfold in real time, unsure if this was entertainment, tragedy, or something dangerously in between. 50 Cent's reactions, or lack thereof, became just as newsworthy as the Harris family's relentless campaign. The deletion of the Tiny Harris post, combined with philosophical quotes about provoking emotions and entertaining audiences, left fans scrambling for interpretation. Was this sarcasm, a strategic retreat, or the first crack in the armor of a man who rarely, if ever, showed vulnerability online? Every post, every deletion, every pause was dissected. Comment sections filled with speculation. "He's scared," wrote one fan. "This is classic 50 playing possum," argued another. The ambiguity only added fuel to the fire. Eat with chaos. Meanwhile, the broader conversation around celebrity feuds began to shift. Observers started asking uncomfortable questions. What happens when family members, especially children, are brought into adult conflicts for public consumption? Was this still just rap beef? Or had it crossed into something more ethically fraught? Social media commentators, both serious and opportunistic, weighed in, debating whether King's aggressive tactics were justified given Tiny Harris's initial provocation, or whether the entire situation had spiraled out of control. The debate extended beyond fans and influencers. Celebrities, cultural commentators, and even former industry insiders weighed in, turning what might have been a contained feud into a cultural touchstone. Charleston White, ever the provocateur, added another layer to the narrative. The Dallas-based commentator had long histories of challenging T.Y. and other figures in the industry, and his engagement at the peak of the Harris 50 feud added an unpredictable variable. Some speculated that 50 Cent might have been attempting to recruit backup, aligning with White to level the playing field. Others saw it as a desperate maneuver, as a way to regain narrative control as the Harris family's coordinated offensive continued to dominate headlines, memes, and comment sections. Whether intentional or not, the interaction introduced a level of chaos nobody saw coming. The psychological toll on 50 Cent became a talking point as well. For a man whose career was built on resilience, street credibility, and media mastery, facing a multi-pronged intergenerational attack was unprecedented. Industry insiders suggested that the mental pressure of seeing private life, childhood trauma, and family members weaponized against him might have contributed to the unusual quiet periods and philosophical posts. For decades, Curtis Jackson had been the hunter, the instigator, the master of social media disruption. Now he was reacting, strategically, yes, but reacting nonetheless, and publicly at that. The image of invincibility, carefully curated over decades, had been challenged in ways the hip-hop world had never seen. Fan reactions continued to oscillate wildly. On one hand, die-hard 50 Cent supporters pointed to his historical dominance, arguing that no young challenger could truly destabilize him. On the other, millions witnessed what appeared to be the first serious online pushback to the Queens rapper's ironclad reputation. Threads on X, Instagram comment chains, and YouTube reaction videos filled with thousands of views dissected every clip, every lyric, and every social media post. Memes proliferated, exaggerating moments of perceived weakness and fueling speculation about the long-term implications of the feud. The narrative had gone beyond music and celebrity. It had become a case study in digital warfare, generational conflict, and the ethical boundaries of online engagement. By now, the Harris family's approach had evolved into something resembling a coordinated campaign of psychological strategy. King Harris's posts weren't random. They were meticulously timed, strategically layered, and emotionally charged. The combination of diss tracks, viral visuals, social media assaults, and direct messaging to Mares Jackson, 50 Cent's estranged oldest son, created a multi-dimensional front that even Curtis Jackson seemed hard-pressed to counteract effectively. The potential optics of Mares standing in alignment, even momentarily, with the Harris camp represented a public relations nightmare. For a man whose legacy depended on dominance, control, and public perception, the stakes had never been higher. And then there were the meta-commentators, social media personalities, and YouTubers who dissected the feud from every conceivable angle. They questioned not only the morality of the attacks, but also the cultural implications. What does it mean for a family's private pain to become public spectacle? Is King Harris a hero defending his mother's honor, or a provocateur pushing boundaries for digital clout? Are fans complicit in escalating the drama by engaging, sharing, and debating? The conversation had outgrown the initial beef, evolving into a broader cultural examination of celebrity, power, and the ethics of online engagement. As Part 2 draws to a close, the landscape is clear but ominous. 50 Cent, the digital warlord, the undefeated troll, the man who has never once been publicly shaken by anyone, is facing a scenario unlike anything in his storied career. Every move by the Harris family, every post by King Harris, every track dropped by T.Y. and Damani has chipped away at the narrative of invincibility. The battle has shifted from music and social media into the realm of family, legacy, and morality. And while Curtis Jackson has historically been the hunter, the strategist, and the master of chaos, he is now facing an opponent that refuses to play by the old rules, an opponent who understands that in this particular war, emotional intelligence, familial loyalty, and bold audacity are as lethal as any lyric or meme. The question hanging over the culture now is simple, brutal, and unrelenting. How far will this go? Will 50 Cent regroup, strategize, and reclaim dominance, or has a new era of online family-centered warfare arrived, led by a 21-year-old kid who refuses to back down? As tension mounts and the digital battlefield expands, one thing is clear. Hip-hop, and the internet at large, has never seen anything like this, and everyone watching knows the endgame is anything but predictable. The digital battlefield that King Harris had opened wasn't just about reputation. It had become existential for 50 Cent. For decades, Curtis Jackson had mastered the art of perception. Every meme, every Instagram clapback, every carefully curated clip was designed to reinforce his invincible persona. But now, the armor he built with decades of street cred, music sales, and media dominance was being tested in ways even the most hardened Queens native hadn't faced. Every post King dropped, every track T.I. released, and every DM sent to Mares Jackson tightened the noose, forcing Curtis into a corner where silence was both dangerous and strategic. Fans, critics, and casual observers were left wondering, what would happen next? The internet was filled with speculation. One moment, it was a meme mocking 50's deleted posts. The next, it was a heated debate about the ethics of dragging deceased mothers and private family matters into public feuds. Reactions varied wildly. Some cheered King for defending his mother's honor, others condemned the raw aggression and the emotional brutality directed at 50's childhood trauma. Every angle had supporters and detractors. The frenzy had transformed from a simple rap beef into a cultural examination of boundaries, ethics, and family dynamics in the age of social media. Meanwhile, T.I. kept the pressure relentless. Each new track felt like a meticulously planned offensive, targeting not only Curtis's actions, but also the narrative he had spent years carefully crafting. Fans noted the precision with which Tip's lyrics dissected historical moments, business moves, and personal choices. It wasn't just diss records. It was a forensic exploration of 50 Cent's public and private life, designed to provoke introspection, debate, and even outrage. T.I.'s veteran status in the rap game allowed him to maneuver without overexposure, maintaining credibility while amplifying the stakes for Curtis. Every verse, every punchline, every clip had a purpose. King Harris, on the other hand, was the wild card. The energy he brought to the conflict was unfiltered, chaotic, and unpredictable. The viral nature of his posts meant that nothing he touched stayed contained. The alleged childhood photos, resurfaced allegations, and pointed commentary about family created a level of personal exposure that Curtis had rarely faced, even at the height of his battles with Ja Rule, Rick Ross, or Floyd Mayweather. For the first time, a young challenger had tapped into the emotional core of 50 Cent's history, weaponizing it in a way that demanded attention, reaction, and ultimately accountability. And then came the DMs to Maris Jackson. That move, seemingly contradictory after the public aggression, revealed a strategic layer many hadn't considered. King Harris wasn't just waging war for clout, he was testing loyalties, observing reactions, and creating complex optics for the public to consume. If Maris aligned even temporarily with the Harris camp, it would be a symbolic blow to 50's legacy that no meme or track could reverse. And if Maris refused, King could portray it as a moral victory, emphasizing that his aggression was never personal against the son. It was about justice, respect, and the preservation of family dignity. The layers of psychological warfare were staggering. The potential consequences extended beyond social media. Analysts and fake investigative sources began speculating wildly. Could legal action arise from the resurfaced Shaniqua Tompkins footage? Could unverified claims about cooperation with law enforcement, leaked documents, or private family matters spiral into court cases or public probes? The narrative was fertile ground for anything. In the court of public opinion, 50 Cent had suddenly become a figure under scrutiny for behavior and decisions that had previously been obscured by his legendary persona. The potential fallout wasn't just reputational, it was cultural, financial, and generational. Industry insiders whispered about the implications for collaborations, brand partnerships, and media appearances. Brands that once lined up for the prestige of association with 50 Cent were watching closely. The digital storm King Harris had created forced executives, promoters, and collaborators to reassess risk. Even casual observers noted the irony. Curtis, who had mastered influence for decades, was now navigating the unpredictable terrain of emotional warfare and viral backlash. His past dominance in media and music provided him experience. But the personal stakes had never been higher. Charleston White's involvement, though tangential, added another unpredictable element. His interactions with Curtis and references to past grievances with T.R. raised questions about alliances, strategy, and potential escalation. Social media speculated endlessly. Was 50 Cent attempting to recruit backup? Was Charleston a hired provocateur or a genuine ally? The lines between personal vendetta, entertainment, and media manipulation blurred completely. Every tweet, every comment, and every viral clip became a chess piece in a high-stakes game where the board constantly shifted. Meanwhile, public sentiment was a roller coaster. Memes, reaction videos, and blog analyses multiplied. Comment threads became heated debates on morality, celebrity responsibility, and the ethics of involving family in public disputes. "Keep the moms out the beef," one comment read, in summing up the tension between respect and entertainment. Another comment highlighted the irony of millions of fans obsessing over conflicts that would never touch their daily lives. The discourse wasn't just about Curtis, T.I., or King Harris. It was a reflection of cultural fascination with spectacle, outrage, and digital voyeurism. Through it all, the Harris family's coordination remained unmatched. The combination of strategic diss tracks, social media offensives, viral visuals, and direct messaging created a multi-dimensional assault on 50 Cent's credibility. The psychological effect, compounded by public scrutiny, put Curtis in a position where each reaction was scrutinized, analyzed, and debated. Fans noticed even subtle shifts, deletions, philosophical posts, ambiguous captions, all interpreted as either retreats, miscalculations, or strategic pauses. The tension was palpable, and the narrative control Curtis had maintained for decades appeared to be slipping. And at the same time, the ethical questions loomed larger than ever. King Harris's attacks on a deceased family member, the resurfacing of old allegations, and the public targeting of private life created a moral gray area. Critics argued that the boundaries of acceptable conflict had been obliterated. Supporters countered that Curtis had set the precedent with attacks on Tiny Harris and others, making the retaliation fair game. The debate was messy, public, and impossible to resolve definitively, perfect fuel for the viral machine. Financial stakes were another dimension of the fallout. 50 Cent's brand empire, spanning music, film, television, and business ventures, was being viewed through a new lens. Every move, every post, and every deleted clip carried implications for endorsements, partnerships, and market perception. Analysts speculated that prolonged digital warfare could impact future investments, television appearances, and collaborations. And the battle had escalated beyond music or memes. It was now a potential business liability, a cautionary tale in digital PR, and a real-time case study in crisis management. And then the human element, the personal toll on all involved. Curtis, T.I., Tiny, King, Damani, and Maris were navigating highly publicized emotional terrain. Every interaction carried potential consequences, and the emotional weight of childhood trauma, family loyalty, and public scrutiny was enormous. Observers noted that the feud had exposed vulnerabilities rarely seen in Curtis Jackson, highlighting that even the toughest personas have limits when personal history and family honor intersect with public exposure. By the time King Harris posted the T-shirt with Sabrina Jackson's face, the intensity of the feud reached unprecedented levels. Social media exploded, reaction videos went viral, and discussions extended across platforms. The optics were undeniable. The Harris family was unified, yet strategic, and ruthless. Curtis Cent, the man who once dominated with memes and social media tactics, was facing coordinated opposition unlike anything in his career. Every move he had perfected over decades was now being tested against youth, audacity, and emotional intelligence. The final stage of the feud saw unexpected gestures. King's DM to Maris Jackson, expressing a willingness to de-escalate, introduced a complex narrative twist. It suggested maturity and strategy, and signaling that while chaos reigned, control could still be exercised. The duality of aggression and diplomacy created a nuanced battlefield where narrative, perception, and loyalty intertwined. Social media reacted with mixed opinions. Some lauded King for strategic foresight, others questioned his sincerity after such aggressive prior actions. The debate further fueled the media storm, keeping all eyes fixed on every development. So, where did this leave Curtis Jackson? Could he reclaim narrative control? Or was he a victim of a public spectacle that challenged both personal and professional boundaries? Could he reclaim narrative control? Or was this the first visible crack in the armor that had protected him for decades? The answer remained uncertain. But one thing was undeniable. The Harris family had shifted the paradigm of modern hip-hop beef. Personal history, family loyalty, And digital strategy had converged in a way that transformed the conflict from entertainment to a multi-layered cultural moment. As the dust began to settle, the questions that lingered were as much about culture as they were about the individuals involved. What are the limits of online conflict when family members are involved? How far can you go before reputation, ethics, and personal history collide with public perception? And can a young challenger like King Harris legitimately redefine the rules for confronting legends like 50 Cent? Or is this a fleeting moment in digital spectacle? These questions, unanswered and urgent, ensured that the story would continue to resonate far beyond the initial tracks, posts, and viral moments. In the end, what unfolds is a cautionary tale wrapped in high drama, social media chaos, and intergenerational conflict. The stakes are deeply personal, the consequences unpredictable, and the spectacle unavoidable. Curtis Jackson may have faced trolls, rivals, and critics before, but this confrontation with the Harris family, spearheaded by a young, fearless King Harris, was a new kind of challenge. One that combined music, social media strategy, familial loyalty, and emotional intensity in ways that have never been seen before. And as the cultural conversation rages on, one truth is clear. No one in this feud is playing by the old rules. Curtis Jackson, T.I., King Harris, Damani, and Maris are all navigating a battlefield where music, memes, legacy, and emotion collide. And for the audience, it's a spectacle that is impossible to ignore, impossible to forget, and impossible to categorize. So, where does this leave us, and more importantly, where does it leave 50 Cent? After decades of running the internet like a chessboard, the man who once laughed at every challenge, dissed every rival, and made memes a weapon is finally facing a storm he can't just post his way out of. King Harris, T.I., Tiny, and even Maris have shown the world that the rules have changed. And for Curtis Jackson, the same playbook that worked for 20 years suddenly feels obsolete. This isn't just a rap beef anymore. This is a high-stakes, multi-generational war played out on the feeds, stories, and timelines of millions of people. Now, we have to ask the real questions. Will 50 Cent bounce back? Or is this the first public crack in his armor? Can King Harris keep pushing the narrative without losing control? Or is there more chaos waiting to explode? And honestly, how far is too far when family, legacy, and personal history collide with viral culture? You've seen the drama, you've seen the receipts, and you've seen the strategy. So tell us, who's really winning, and who's about to fold under pressure? Drop your thoughts in the comments, smash that like button if you're shocked, and hit subscribe to stay locked for every twist, leak, and viral moment in this epic saga. Don't blink. This story is far from over.